Hi folks, today is the 31st of December, it's the last day of the year, so I thought this would be a great chance to take a look back at everything that I've made throughout the year. Now I'm struggling to get it all into the one shot. As you can see, there's a lot of 3D printed models. So let's take a look back and go through each of them, see my successes and unfortunately a couple of fails. Now at the beginning of the year I was happily painting miniatures. I didn't even really ever think about 3D printing. So for the first couple of months I was bashing out miniatures. Now a lot of these are the metal orcs from sort of 1989, and last year I went a bit crazy and spent way too much money on eBay trying to find and source all these original pieces. So I've still got quite a few to go through and paint, but obviously these have taken a massive back step as soon as I got a 3D printer. Now I have painted a couple of these on the channel. I think I painted these two. I'll be honest, no one ever watches those videos, so but people are definitely not interested in the miniature painting. So I will start with these and get these guys out of the way first. So just show you the ones hiding at the back. I'm still a fan of minis. I will still paint them every now and then. It definitely keeps my painting skills sharp. They are obviously a lot more technically difficult to paint than larger statues, but painting is painting ultimately. So as long as you can got a steady hand and understand how to pick colours, it really doesn't matter whether you're painting something small or something huge. So my 3D journey actually began with this model. Now this isn't one I printed, this is actually one I ordered off eBay, just ordered a print. Now the funny thing is, I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to actually do the printing myself. I thought it was going to be too much to learn, too difficult. I'd just be happily enough buying the models. But the models on eBay, they were definitely going up in price. So by the time this guy arrived, it took 2 weeks for him to arrive. Within that time, I'd actually gone out and bought a 3D printer, and I think he arrived on the same day that the 3D printer arrived. So this was it. From this point on, everything else I printed myself. And I think he came out really nicely, actually. Now, funnily enough, once you start 3D printing yourself, you obviously have your own ideas on how things should be done. And there are a couple of little spots on this that did fail. Particularly around the bullets casings here. So personally, I wouldn't have used this had I printed it myself, but it's not particularly noticeable. Now this was the first 3D printed model, as I say, and I was really pleased with this one. There was a lot of nice textures around the clothing, around the armour, and even the face, which is often hidden really under the brim of that hat. But yeah, Cad Bane, fantastic character. And yeah, what a brilliant piece to start my 3D printing journey. Black Chrysanthemum. Okay, so this is the reason I actually bought a 3D printer. It was when I saw this model. Now, again, I was looking at models on eBay. There was a guy selling this, and then he suddenly jacked up the price by like triple what he was originally charging. I think once he realised the size of it, he was obviously wanting to charge a bit more. So by this point, I thought, it's, you know, I may as well just buy myself a printer now and try and work out how to do this for myself, because in the long run the cost of a printer and a few bottles of resin is going to far outweigh the cost of trying to buy these models from, you know, resellers. So this was the first model I printed myself and painted, fully finished. And you know what, I'm still really happy with this one. The only issue with him is he is in scale, but I think his size always, he doesn't look as big as he should do. Just look at him next to sort of Forlorn there, simply because of how he's crouched. So his knees are bent and he's leaning forward, so he is squatted down, which is a cool pose, don't get me wrong, but I kind of wish he was taller because I think he loses a little bit on his height. But yes, Wicked 3D or Star Wars 3D models, whichever one of the sister groups you join to, they are the reason for all this. I solely hold them responsible. Their models are so good, and they continue to be so good. And yeah, once I started making these things, there was no looking back. So let's just carry on with the Star Wars statues. Now, my favoured scale is 1/6, so pretty much every Star Wars statue I've done is in that 1/6 scale. Now again, from Star Wars 3D, Sister Group of Wicked, is Forlom. Kit Fisto. Now Kit Fisto is a character I wouldn't normally sort of really care about, to be honest. I'm not a massive prequels fan, but the pose on this guy was just so good I couldn't resist. He's real got that sort of samurai look to him. Stood up on the rock there. Broken battle droid. Lovely model, that one. From Galactic Armory, we got a couple of clones. So we've got a heavy gunner clone and a commando. The Cad Bane was also from Galactic Armory. Stormtrooper. Everyone's got to have a Stormtrooper in the collection. This is Star Wars 3D. Now a couple of independents. I made Mara Jade. I think I found that on Colts 3D. It's my first kind of attempt really at doing a female statue of this scale. So really my first sort of stab at skin tones. Then another independent one is this, I think he's called, I'm not sure what its official name is, but I think he's referred to as sort of the bunny droid. And again, this is another sort of independent sculptor, again, that I found through either Colts or CGT Trader. Lovely little model, this one. He's the guy from the Book of Boba Fett that chases Boba Fett around the kitchen. I think he's the rat catcher droid. So then finally, the big centerpiece of the collection is the Luke on Tauntaun. Now, if I pull back, you can see how he towers over everything. The base alone is, you know, twice the size of the next nearest size. Really fantastic model. A lot of work went into this one. This is the winner of the year in terms of my favourite model, in terms of the work that went into it. I'm happy with the paint job. Now, I've also did the alternate poses with him, so he's actually got switch out torso and also a couple of switch out heads, which if you go back and look at the video where I made this, you'll see all that. But I just thought for this model, for the time and effort, the look of it, it was worth doing all the options. So it was also my first go at using magnets, and yeah, I was quite pleased with the results. I'm a big fan of Marvel Comics, so it's kind of odd that I've only really made one comic book model this year, again from Wicked 3D. Now, I mentioned at the beginning I've had a couple of failures, and unfortunately this was my biggest one. As you can see, he's cracked there, he's also broken around here, melted resin, resin's poured all over the model, it's destroyed all the paintwork in various places. So what caused that? I made a mistake. I printed a couple of pieces solid without, I printed a couple of pieces hollow, and I didn't put any drainage holes in. I didn't realise they were hollow, I didn't mean to do that, so over time that resin, that uncured resin, has burst. So yeah, I'm not sure if this guy is overly salvageable, to be honest. So it seems a shame, because he's probably 70% of the model is still okay. I could probably clip that off okay, but I think trying to repair all this is kind of beyond repair, to be honest. So at some point I might have to either try and repair it or just remake another one, or do neither, to be honest, and just move on to other models. You live and learn. Now, the second failure I had while I'm talking about that, the same thing happened with Forlom. His entire head exploded, and it leaked resin everywhere. Same thing. I thought I'd actually printed the head solid, but I somehow printed it hollow without, again, putting the drainage holes in. But the weird thing with how he exploded is the resin somehow sort of poured sort of in between his arm. It hit a little bit of the base, melted the paint a little bit, but it was actually salvageable. And where the head was, because the head was detachable, not detachable, sorry, the head was obviously separate. I was able to just take it off. It was a nice clean cut. I was able to reprint another head, plonk it on, and you wouldn't even notice. So I was very pleased that I was able to salvage that one. Unfortunately, Omega Red, I think, is a little bit beyond that. 80s cartoons, another favourite of mine, showing my age here. Thundercats. Really, it was a cartoon I always liked as a kid. I never really had many of the action figures or anything, but I have always liked the designs. And the thing is with a 3D printer, what I quickly realised is you start printing off things, even stuff that you have a sort of a vague interest in, simply because you can. It's something you have to control, because otherwise you end up printing off way too much and you won't even get through it all. But yes, so Thundercats, can't say it was something that I had a burning desire to own, but once I saw the models, I just couldn't resist printing them off, building and painting them. So I started with Wily kit of all characters, not the most obvious one to start with, but I think I got a good deal on this model, which is why I ended up with this one. Now the guy who has put these together, I think his name is CG Pyro. You can find him presumably either on Colts or CGG Trader. He's done a whole series of these guys, and I ended up buying the whole lot. So at some point, I will get through all of them. So yeah, I was quite pleased with this Wily kit one. As I say, it's not one I would normally go for, but I quite liked the hoverboard. And the good thing with these painting these cartoon models is I'm able to change up my painting style. So again, going from something accurate like that to something very simple and stylized is good fun. It's nice to mix things up. And so in that vein, I also did a couple of mini busts. So we've got Monkeyin and Slide, which I think is my favourite. In with the cartoon theme, this is one that I've just recently finished within like the last week, is Brave Star diorama. Now again, this is from a independent sculptor. I think I got this one through CG Trader, but I'm not sure if the model's still on there. But yeah, this is a nice three-piece of Brave Star, 3030 and Deputy Fuzz. And again, it's another one where I can just use nice bold colours, nice stark black lines, and put it together relatively quickly. Now, I am a big fan of vintage Star Wars action figures. You can see my channel actually started out as reviewing that kind of things before I sort of seemed to take over with the 3D printing. So it was inevitable with a 3D printer and a love of action figures, I was going to bring the two together. So these are a couple of guys, and this is an actual proper vintage Stormtrooper. And so I basically just made a couple just for fun really, and did them at 6-inch scale. So they kind of fit in for fans who collect the 6-inch Black Series Star Wars figures. They kind of fit in well with that. So yeah, they're just a bit of fun really. These are the first things that I've done that are actually articulated. So everything else that I've made over the years, or this last year I should say, obviously are all static statues, but yeah, these guys actually work. Although it is a little bit tricky getting the guns in their hands, so I'm still kind of working out the best way to do that. I've actually been trying to use different types of resins. I've been using a more flex resin to try and fit those weapons, because obviously the original action figures had a bit of flexibility to them that most plastic resins don't have. So that takes us through just about everything. Now, I say just about everything. There was one other model which I have painted on my channel, which I gave to a friend. It was Ghostface from Scream, little sort of maquette type model. So if you want to go back and look at that, you can. Now I've counted everything on here, and there are 27 models, so including the one I gave away is 28. So 28 models for 2023. Now considering the size of some of these, I think that's pretty good going. So what does 2024 hold? Well, probably more of the same, really and truly. But I think I'm going to try and be a bit more picky, because I have developed a bit of a backlog of models that I've printed, which I haven't got round to. So I think it's going to be two parts: clear the backlog and also be a bit more selective on what I print going forward. But of course, the lovely thing with 3D printing is there's models coming out constantly. You never know what's going to come out around the corner. you plan to work on one model, then another model drops, which is, something that captures your imagination a little bit more. So you end up putting everything else on the back burner and concentrating on the latest pieces. Okay, well, I wish you all a happy new year, happy modelling, happy printing, painting, and I will see you next year.